Warning. This podcast episode contains swearing, drinking, references towards violence, and brief mentions of attempted sexual assault. Viewer discretion is advised. Without any further ado, here's episode 2, The Great Amherst Mystery.
Hello and welcome to Demons and Bellinis, the podcast where we whip up a drink and talk about some spooky shit. I'm your co-host, the black omnipresent figure who lurks in your closet at night and steals cool socks, Molly.
And I'm that knife that's coming at you hard and fast, Ashley. Today's episode is about the great Amherst mystery, so grab a beverage of your choosing, get cozy, and check your closet for monsters. And remember, stay peachy!
Alright, so what are we talking about today, Ashley?
We know about Nova Scotia.
I don't know a lot about Nova Scotia. I just know that it's in Canada. I've never been to the Maritimes, so Ashley has.
Yeah, I have family that live out there. So our story is in Nova Scotia, Canada. It's one of my favorite kind of topics because there are so many stories like the one that I'm going to tell you today where it's just crazy shit that no one can really explain, and you have all these witnesses, all these people with professional backgrounds who witness these events, but people still can't explain it, and you see these throughout history. But there tends to be a common trend where a lot of them take place in the Victorian era, and I'm going to address that later on in the episode. I would recommend taking the story, lend me the benefit of the doubt, but also take it with a grain of salt. Put some salt on your margarita glass so it's not all sweet, because there's a very good chance this story could be a hoax. Our story starts in 1878. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that we said we were going to talk about experiences, then history first, but this one is literally just about experiences as it is an event rather than a location, so it's kind of hard for me to kind of go through it all. But I am going to tell you what this family went through, and then I'll tell you a little bit more of the background. Okay. So our story starts in 1878. This story, this event, or whatever you want to call it, it was witnessed by several neighbors, scientists, clergymen, doctors, and paranormal investigators, or at this point in time you could call them, I guess, paranormal investigators. What were they called in the 1800s?
Spiritualists? I don't know. Mediums?
Yeah, I would say spiritualists.
Yeah.
So it was more of like the seance-y kind of thing than what you have now, where it's like EMF readers and EVP recorders. It's more of like a bunch of people sitting around a table being like, "Who's here with us?"
Classic seances.
Sexy. Seances are sexy.
Yeah, I know.
There is something really sexy about seances. I don't know if it's like the red mood lighting or the candles or what it is.
The hand-holding.
I love hand-holding. If you see me and my boyfriend in public, there is a 95% chance that we're holding hands, and if we're not, it's because he said something that upset me, and I don't want to hold his hand because I'm mad.
Is that because at any given point in time, you're conducting a seance with your boyfriend?
Seance to get into his pants.
I hate you so much.
Alrighty. So, this, brace yourselves, is a poltergeist story.
Ooh!
Yes! So, Molly, do you know what a poltergeist is?
I have a vague understanding of what a poltergeist is. All I know is that they're kind of like a chaotic spirit where they really like to fuck shit up.
Well, and by fuck shit up, she means they're spirits that... That's my cat. So, a poltergeist is a spirit that allegedly has the ability to move objects and to kind of create an impact in the environment around it.
Okay.
So, say you have your glass on a table. All of a sudden, your glass moves and hits the floor on its own.
My Bellini glass.
So that would be poltergeist activity. You see a door slam, poltergeist activity. Poltergeist is a German word, I believe, translates loosely into noisy ghost or noisy spirit, and I love that.
I love that too.
Because it makes them sound less scary. There's that 80s movie called Poltergeist, and it's scary.
Yeah.
So I like that the loose translation makes it a little less scary.
Well, I like that they're basically like your noisy roommates. I really appreciate that. Because, like, I lived in dorms for like a year. And let me tell you, while I didn't have a roommate, your floor mates are noisy as fuck. So, like, I can kind of relate to someone who's, like, experiencing poltergeist activity. Like, you know. I'm there with you.
This is a little different.
Yeah.
There are poltergeist cases where just, shit moves, and it's like, ooh, poltergeist. There are times where it seems more intelligent, and that's when it gets scary.
Mm-hmm.
And this one gets scary.
Mm-hmm.
So, all this was happening to 18-year-old Esther Cox. She lived with her sister and her family in a home in Amherst, Nova Scotia. And things began kind of how all these stories kind of start, which is typically at, they're just an odd event. It's very subtle, but it's noticeable.
Yeah.
Right? And I think these kind of things are a little bit more creepy than what it escalates into.
Yeah.
So what happened one night was that she was sharing her bed with her sister Jane, and they began to hear rustling under the bed. And they thought it was a mouse. So they look under the bed, they don't see anything. They lay back down, the rustling starts again.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see anything again, they go back to bed, but it keeps rustling, and it gets louder and louder and louder every single night. Until one night, Esther claimed that her body began to swell up in agony, to the point that she thought she was actually going to burst.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She experienced dramatic body temperature changes, like all over the place, and she went into spasms, and she apparently said things that she, quote, couldn't remember later on, which, I mean, let's be real, after a couple of Bellinis, we can't remember anything.
Exactly, yeah. But, I mean, how old is this kid?
18.
18? Okay, never mind. Well, like, she's under the legal drinking age in Canada, she can't be drunk.
This was 1878 in Nova Scotia. People are getting fucked in Nova Scotia!
You heard it here first, folks. Get fucked in Nova Scotia, Canada.
We're gonna get fucked up there in the garage, eh, bud? I want to apologize to my grandmother and my grandpa who live in Nova Scotia.
I'm sure they're lovely people.
Oh, they are. They really
are.
But yeah, so this physical kind of thing, a doctor could probably explain it, but it came out of nowhere, and it sounds really scary. I mean, she literally said that she felt like she was going to explode.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Are we sure that she wasn't just sick?
Possibly. I will address that later on.
Okay.
So, after this, things started to get even weirder. She's lying in bed, she's in pain, this goes on for a little while. Blankets and pillows start to get thrown off of her bed on their own.
Yikes.
And this is when a lot of other stuff starts happening, like things are just moving on their own, doors are slamming, the family are hearing things, and this is when it gets fucked.
Okay. Fucked.
Yes. One night, above Esther's bed, the words, "Esther Cox, you are mine to kill," appear on the wall.
Jeez. That's dark.
Yeah.
Like, was this, like, carved as in, like, etched into, like, the...
From what I could tell, it was just written.
Written?
It was just written onto the wall. Which is, like, someone could have just wrote that.
Yeah.
But
Did anyone else witness this? Or, because, like, you were saying that she shared a bed with her sister Jane, right?
Well, at this point, she's, like, pretty, like, physically ill. So she's, like, kind of on her own. But this is witnessed by a lot of people, and it's witnessed by an investigator who I will talk about later on, who claims to have seen it appear on the wall.
Okay.
Still kind of bizarre. The same night that this happens, the family claimed to hear claps of thunder coming from inside the house, and in particular from under the bed, and they start hearing voices as well.
Okay.
Little weird.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about these poltergeist stories from the 1800s is that they're so over the top.
Yeah. This kind of seems larger than life.
Oh, it's such a trend with these stories, is that they're so over the top.
Can't believe that ghost stories have trends.
They do, though.
They do. They totally do.
There's one, I think... Oh, shit, what was it? There was one where, like, there was a bull involved.
A bull?
Yeah, something... I can't remember. But a lot of them, there'll be things thrown around, things written on the wall. People... in particular get targeted, and that's the thing with this case, is that, as you'll soon see, is that it wasn't the house that was haunted, it was Esther that was haunted.
Oh, okay.
So, they brought in a doctor, but the family was very hesitant to do so because they didn't want to be mocked. They didn't want people to be like, you're faking it. Oh, you got ghosts. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were very hesitant about it, but at the same time, apparently there were noises coming from the house, loud enough to be heard from up to 200 yards away. So, like, shit falling.
How did they test that? Did, like, someone just, like, walk out of the house and was like, I can still hear the thunder.
Ghost, do it again! You run 100 more yards. Do it again! And you... Ghost is like, go long!
And, like, another thing, like...
I'm gonna throw this glass!
If they're, like, getting a doctor, why would they be afraid of feeling mocked? I mean, like, I get there's a paranormal aspect there, but, like, your daughter is fucking sick.
Here's the thing I'm gonna get into. Here's the other trend with these 1800 ghost stories.
Yeah.
Is when poltergeist shit like this starts happening, it's like a fucking Lady Gaga concert. You have to be there. If you are anyone in society and you hear about a poltergeist case, you had better show up in that front parlor and be waiting to see some poltergeist shit. So the next time you go play cards with Bridget down the street, you can tell her, oh bitch, you should have seen what I saw the other day. Margaret was walking up the wall. It was ridiculous. She was screaming and shit.
Yeah.
Like, whenever these things happen, everyone shows up and they want to see it happen.
Well, I mean, they didn't have Twitter or anything, you know?
Oh, yeah, no, like, now poltergeist shit happens and someone just live tweets it and you can, like,
retweet.
follow along. But,
case in point, Dear David.
I hate that story so much.
I know, it's real freaky. And, like, another thing, it's like, I feel like if my house had all this activity, being mocked would also be on, like, the lowest bit of my priorities. The lowest level of my priorities. Because if I'm hearing thunder from under my fucking bed, I wouldn't give a shit about being mocked. I would be like, listen up here, hoes.
Unless you want your daughter to marry rich because it's 1878, and if she doesn't, you're gonna die of smallpox.
Well, fucking move.
You know,
just move to Ontario. Go to Quebec. Go to New Brunswick. Go to PEI.
What society? Tell me what high society was in PEI in 1878. For those outside of Canada, PEI is Prince Edward Island, and it's literally an island the size of a potato off the coast of, what? Is it New Brunswick?
I think so, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has red dirt.
You can literally walk around this province.
I think it's real cool. Red dirt.
Anyways, so while this is going on, things are moving around the house on their own, items are disappearing and reappearing, and fires are erupting on their own.
Spontaneous human combustion?
No, just spontaneous combustion.
Okay. Where were these fires taking place? Like, was this, like, an actual flammable object, or was this, like...
It was just in the house.
Did they specify?
No, they just said fire started.
Suspicious.
I know. So... like, also like other cases, this activity would, like, happen, and then it would stop. And then it would happen again, and then it would stop. And then it would happen again, and then it would stop. So it's like, on and off, on and off. It got to a point, though, that Esther was actually forced to leave her home. Her family couldn't deal with it anymore. They were like, bitch, take your shit and get the fuck out of our house. We have kids trying to live here, and we can't if their fucking shit's flying off the bed. Like... Well,
I mean, like, this is 1870, and she's not already married. She's practically a spinster.
Oh, yeah, at 18, and you're not married in 1878, you're... you're a spinster.
Yeah, you're like a crazy cat lady.
Yeah. You have to have your shit together by, like, 16, and you better have your... Like, in 1878, you had to have your first kid out of your vagina at 17.
Yeah.
18? What are you doing?
Yeah, girl. You're just asking to get a poltergeist. This poltergeist was probably just mad at her because she wasn't having kids.
Oh, you might regret saying that later.
I can't believe that these poltergeists are fucking sexist.
That's the other thing, though. Poltergeist cases, they always target women.
Yeah.
They always target women. And I'm going to go back to that point again later on, is that a lot of these cases, the activity is centered around a woman in the household. Mm-hmm. Particularly either the daughter or the mother. Most often the daughter.
Weird.
But yeah, it's always targeting women. which is very odd. That women normally get attacked, or they feel, kind of like what Esther was feeling before, with like this agony, or, they're the ones that get stuff thrown at them. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, that is very bizarre.
Which almost makes me think of, like, the hysteria from the Victorian era, right? Where it's like, oh, you haven't had an orgasm, you're freaking out. That's what it was!
Yeah.
These Victorian men did not know how to satisfy their women.
I also...
Though if it wasn't for those lazy-ass Victorian men, we would not have the vibrator.
I actually, read this really interesting, because I was in, a history of sexuality class. Because I'm a university student, I'm educated. I read this,
Don't bring yourself down. You're educated.
I'm educated, yeah. I read this, book. I forget where it was from. I'll mention it in the description somewhere. Link in the below.
That's annoying.
Yeah, I know. It's super
Can
annoying.
we get 1 million likes on this video? Dab, 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 dab.
She did actually dab, in case you were curious.
I did 5 dabs.
Like this video, if you think that being haunted is
Kinda hot.
But anyway, I read this excerpt from this handbook for boys, and it was talking about masturbation. And I'll send this to you later, actually. But it was all about how ungodly it was for men to masturbate. These people, here's the thing. Victorians are fucking raunchy. But at the same time, their paranoia is just insane to me.
That just kind of stemmed it also makes me think of in the early medieval ages, the body was evil and wrong.
Yeah.
But in Catholicism and religion, the body meant Jesus, right? Because you eat the body of Christ.
Yeah.
Right? So it was this very weird kind of thing going on where it's your body is disgusting, but you must also keep your body clean for God. And that kind of comes back in the Victorian era, where it's your body is disgusting, but you must be clean for God.
Yeah.
And then women's bodies have always been disgusting.
Yeah.
Which is why when the Virgin Mary became a huge big thing in I think it was the 1400s, people were very freaking out because it's boobies.
I feel we can describe a lot of things that way, boobies,
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 boobies, boobies. There was a so. And then going back to the whole Victorian era women and poltergeist and hysteria, it almost makes you think of women are so emotional, and then people less likely to believe them when it comes to these poltergeist cases because it's all this shit going on. It's women are just like that.
Maybe the poltergeists are attracted to women because of
boobies.
We went to 2 very different camps there.
What did you say?
I said bleeding.
That's disgusting.
And you just went straight to the titty.
No. Titties are reasonable. Can I say titties?
You can say titties.
Titties, look it, everyone can enjoy a good titty.
Yeah.
But bleeding? Hello? What?
Well, I don't
know. Do you like vampires?
Do you remember, I remember there was this fucking image that I saw in maybe mid 2011 where it was tampons are just vampire tea bags. I know.
Bitch.
I know.
That's gross.
That's horrible. Anyway.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past it. Poltergeist can be real freaks.
Yeah.
Anyways. So.
Made me a freak like that.
I'm gonna write above your bed. Molly.
What are you gonna write, Ashley? What are you gonna write?
I'm not gonna say that. I have a boyfriend.
It's too bad that this isn't a visual podcast. But we are literally on the bedroom floor of Ashley's bedroom, just drinking wine mixed with fucking peach juice.
$1, 100% sugar peach juice.
This wine was $20 though.
Yeah, so it balances out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's equal parts trash, equal part elegance.
I don't know if I would call it eloquence, but it's very nice wine.
Alright. Anyways. So like any 18-year-old with a lot of shit going on, Esther was forced to leave her house. So she gets taken in by another family in Amherst, and she starts to work for them, but the hauntings followed her. One day she was working at the family saloon when a knife flew across the bar and stabbed Esther right in the chest.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeet!
This bitch gonna get stabbed! Yeet! So, here's where it gets really fucking bizarre. Is that Esther's freaking out, and of course, you know, people rush over to help her. They pull the knife out, but the knife gets yanked out of their hands and goes right back into the same wound.
This sounds very dramatized.
Oh, I know. It's like a knife flying across the bar, a saloon,
yeah,
stabbing her in the chest, and then when they try to pull it back out, it gets put back in again. That's some
really powerful shit, if this is, like, correct. Because I'm not going to be, like, a Shane Madej here, where I'm not going to, like, try to discount everything. Like...
No, it's valid, though. People do crazy shit for money. Yeah. And I'm going to get into that. Where this starts to get a little bit more...
yeah.
Where things seem a little bit over the top here. Okay. And if it's getting to the point where people are literally getting stabbed, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So after this, it starts getting investigated by scientists, clergymen, and other doctors. Town people are gathering around trying to see this shit, like we talked about before.
Bridget!
Guess what I saw, Bridget! Anyways, Esther, she even went to New Brunswick, where she worked with a group of scientists who claimed that she was able to communicate with several entities who haunted her. This was also documented. Here we introduce a very sketchy individual. I think he's sketchy. You might not, but I think he is. Walter Habel, he's a noted investigator and author. He wrote The Haunted House, A True Ghost Story, which is about Esther Cox and the Amherst Mystery. He was the one who coined the word Amherst Mystery. So you already tell, it's a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
He showed up around the time that the writing appeared on the wall, and he was documenting this, and he went on to publish a book about it after Esther's death. And he had 16 other witnesses sign and say that this happened.
Okay.
But I think what's sketchy here is that he did it after her death.
Yeah. But could that also be like a respect thing?
Possibly. But at the same time, it's not his story.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Like, if he technically made it just about him investigating this, and not, here's what happens to this woman.
Well, you were kind of talking about this earlier, how a lot of ghost stories and horror in general has a very, like, strong, privileged male perspective.
Oh, yeah. Like, as a female doing research in the horror genre and trying to find other women who write horror, it's very hard to find, like, genuine horror. And, like in literature, I mean, there's one author, he literally just has someone write books for him and he slaps his name on there. Like, it's a very male-dominated genre. That's why, you know, you associate horror with, like, boobs and blood.
Yeah.
My favorite 2 B words. Right? So, and then when you look at this, where it's like you have this, I'm gonna air quote around true ghost story, documented by this Hubble person, and then he waits until after she died to publish his book.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets even more sketchy.
Okay.
Is that he tried to convince her to go on a tour and talk about what happened.
Excuse me?
Yes. So going around Canada and down into the States talking about the ghost story. So it's like, hi, I'm Esther Cox, and I've been haunted since I was 18.
Is she, like, traveling on, like, the back of a polar bear or a moose?
What?
Would she be traveling around on the back of a polar bear or a moose? If we're gonna go real Canadian here, like, you know, we don't have cars. We have meese, and we have bears.
Obviously a lumberjack wearing plaid crotchless slacks. But, so yeah, and so he, you know, was like, oh yeah, no, we should totally do this. And she agreed to it.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yes, she agreed to it. Here's what gets kind of funny, though.
Okay.
They go to their first show, and the audience heckles them to the point that they have to cancel the whole thing.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah. So, her family was kind of right about them being mocked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, yeah. After that, she goes to work for another family, and shortly after that, she's accused of burning down this barn for the family owned, and she is sentenced to 4 months in prison for arson.
Oh, jeez.
Here's where I made the connection.
Okay.
Earlier, where she was living with her sister and all this was happening, fires were appearing in the house.
Right.
Flash forward to this, she's accused of burning down the barn for this family she works for.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes you think maybe it was all a hoax and she was starting the fires.
Yeah. Yeah, potentially. I'd agree with that, yeah.
And also at this point, too, I couldn't find a super lot of mention of other noticeable hauntings. It was just like, they went on this tour, it failed, and then she got accused of burning down this barn. It's a little bit odd.
It is, yeah, certainly.
So she only served 1 month in prison before she was released, and then after this, it gets kind of more like afternote kind of thing. She got married twice, she had a son to each marriage, and she moved to Brockton, Massachusetts, where she died November 8th, 1912. Here's where I want to note is that Hubbell's book was published in 1916, which is like, he's been with her. He tried to get her to go on this tour, it failed, she dies, he publishes the book.
If you hear barking, that's just Ashley's dog.
It is my dog.
Was there, like, any discussion on if this entity ended up, like, kind of following her, or did it just, like, kind of drop off the face of the earth?
I think it's kind of dropped off after the knife incident. I couldn't find a super heck of a lot about this. And which I find kind of interesting is that also with these poltergeist cases is that they only last for a handful of years before they just stop.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, shit's hyperactive for 2 years and that's just silence.
Huh. But I don't think that necessarily all poltergeist cases are hoaxes. I mean, this one kind of sounds a little bit hoaxy. Like, I'm not going to, like, discount this case entirely because I'm not here to do that. But that does kind of maybe lend into the skeptic point of view where it's like, oh, these people are, like, only faking this while they have the attention and then nothing else happens, like, they just give it up. But then it's also like, is this stuff just not being reported? Is it maybe recorded into, like, a diary or something? Like, I don't know, maybe...
The only written material of this that lasts is Hubbell's book.
Jeez.
Like,
yeah.
the material from that era, that period when it was happening. The other material that exists now was written from a second-hand source.
Okay.
I want to kind of believe that some of this is true. However, I feel like the more extreme stuff, I'm a little bit more hesitant to believe. But I do believe that possibly something was attracted to Esther.
Yeah.
Because all of this happened after a close family friend attempted to sexually assault her. And she became very depressed and very just quiet and reserved. And for a very long time, she did not tell her family about this, and she didn't tell them while this was happening. So possibly this negativity could have attracted something, some things could have been happening, or possibly she acted out and did all these things as a way of kind of venting what happened to her. Because what this family friend attempted to do was very traumatic, and I don't want to get into the details.
Oh, of course,
it's
yeah.
Very, it's disturbing, that's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that she did these things as a way to vent it out, or maybe, it was actually an energy attracted to that kind of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, both are kind of upsetting to think about.
They are, yeah.
I mean, there have been a few people who have also said, like, oh yeah, this is definitely true. There are also people who have argued, no, it's not true, and one of those people was a Dr. Walter F. Prince in 1919, and he wrote this huge thing for the American Society for Psychical Research. It's a real thing.
I love that.
Yes, it's a real group of men from the 1920s, and they wrote about paranormal and psychical happenings, as you do.
Yeah.
But at a more academic level, and...
Oh.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, things still kind of continue after Esther's death. Obviously, the story still has a huge reputation. There's even talks to make it into a movie. Yes. So, in 2015, the rights to make said movie, based off of the book Haunted Girl, Esther Cox and the Great Amherst Mystery by Laura Glenn Norris and Barb Thompson, was sold to a director who's done work for The Walking Dead and a couple of other really cool horror stuff. So no screenplay's been written yet, but it could be a possible movie coming to a theater near you.
Oh.
Interesting. It would be really cool to see some Canadian horror make the main screen.
Yeah, because there are so many Canadian ghost stories that just kind of, like, don't reach the general public of, like, paranormal investigators, I guess is what I'm talking about. Like, Ghost Adventures, like, only did, like, what was it, 1 episode in Canada?
Yeah, and it was Lake Erie, so technically still America.
Yeah. And, like, the only, like...
Ontario is the little America of Canada. That's all I'm gonna say.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm from Ontario, I can say that.
Mm-hmm.
I pronounce Toronto like Toronto and not Toronto.
No one pronounces it like Toronto. That's too much effort. It's Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, it's, like, the only case that's, like, really, like, gained any notoriety is, like, the Screaming Tunnel, which we may cover at one point, but, like, there's, like, a lot of really cool...
Screaming Tunnel! Honey, you know what else is a Screaming Tunnel?
Shut the fuck up!
My vagina.
I was gonna say that!
But yeah, like, there's so many cool haunted locations in Canada, especially Victoria and, like, Maritimes and, like, Quebec and, like, fucking Ontario. And, like, even the stuff in the prairies and, like, up further north. I don't think I've heard of any stuff further north, but that would be very interesting.
Haunted moose.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna get a little bit... I know that we were just talking about Canada, but I'm gonna get a little bit international on you.
Oh!
Some people have suggested that this case is connected to the Borley Rectory, which is considered the most haunted house in England.
Huh. I have never heard of that. Tell me more.
I will. So, this property has been in use since before the 13th century.
Shit.
It originally had a monastery built on the property. It is said that a monk and a novice, which is a young woman, or a nun, she's going to be a nun, they tried to escape the monastery, but they were killed. Actually, no, they were caught, and then they were killed. The monk was hung, and the novice was apparently bricked into her room.
That's some Edgar Allan Poe shit.
Yeah. I'm also gonna talk about how that does sound like something out of a story later on. So that's pretty brutal, and, you know, just a place having that kind of murderous history does tend to, like you were talking about with Bovalia, it perceives itself.
Mm-hmm.
The monastery was torn down, and there was a church built in 1862 by a Reverend Henry Bull, and he also built the rectory. And for those who don't know, a rectory is basically where the priest and his family live. It's kind of like a lighthouse, but for priests.
Okay.
So things were pretty chill. People before the did claim to see apparitions of a nun. They heard things, you know, typical ghost stuff.
But that's chill. I feel like our perspective of chill is, like, kind of fucked up at this point. I mean, after, like...
Okay, but no, if that was actually happening in my house, though, if I, like, heard somebody walking around and I saw a nun, I'd be like, bitch, bye!
Yeah,
I'm not living here.
I've seen too many trailers for that fucking nun movie to be able to, like, ever look at a nun ever again.
Oh, you're gonna hate the next story I do.
I'm so excited. I am so excited.
This story I'm gonna give you a little preview. The story I'm gonna tell you guys, not next episode, but the episode after, I have had nightmares about it since I was 7.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's fucked me up. It's also from Canada too.
Woo!
Yep. Anyways, back to the rectory in So things really started to get hot and heavy in 1930. So,
hot and heavy.
People started getting locked out of their rooms, items vanished, windows were shattered, furniture was moved, and here we go again, the wife of the priest was particularly targeted. She claimed to be slapped, pushed around, she had things thrown at her, her blankets were... She was literally thrown out of her bed at one point.
Yeet!
And here's where it gets really fucked. She apparently claimed to be suffocated by a mattress. Like, something attempted to suffocate her with a mattress.
Like, how would that work? Like, was she in bed at this time? Did, like, the mattress, like, flip up and, like, just... Or was there a secondary mattress?
Oh my god, no. Oh my god, no. The ghost is like, I have to step things up. The ghost goes up to the attic and finds...
You better step your pussy up.
The ghost finds that ratty-ass, piss-stained, jizz-stained mattress from the attic, brings it downstairs, and opens this woman's room, and is like, oh, bitch, you're not ready, and just shoves that shit down on her.
This is horrible, because, like, this
is not funny. This is not funny. We are horrible and drunk people.
But yeah, like, this poor woman is, like, totally getting targeted. Like, it's pretty horrible, but I feel like in sometimes, not to get, like, overly philosophical here, sometimes in scary situations, all you can do to make yourself feel better is laugh.
Yeah. I mean, I have a legitimate, I'm gonna say phobia, because this shit stresses me out so much. I am terrified of the idea of being dragged out of my bed.
Yeah.
That terrifies me.
Yeah.
So the thought of being pinned down, even just by hands, is terrifying.
But a fucking mattress.
That is horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, if you like, that's heavy, too.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like if someone just, like, dropped a mattress on you and you couldn't move your
that
hands, that would
terrifying.
Suffocate you, like, in the first, like, that you don't even need a force pushing you
down.
down.
That would be horrifying.
How heavy were mattresses back then?
I don't know. It was 1930s, so they're probably full of everyone's tears.
And cum.
I hate that. You know, there's nothing to do in the 1930s except cry and masturbate, apparently, according to Molly.
That's just my Friday night.
Crying and masturbating. Oh, honey. Honey.
I hate that.
Here's where things make me kind of connect back to Amherst. Messages started appearing on the wall.
Ooh.
Here, I'm going to show you a photo.
And we'll tweet this out, like, after the episode comes out.
Yeah. So, that started
shit.
appearing on the wall. Mostly it was in scribbles. But yeah, I think that one was from the people investigating at the time, trying to get more, like, spirits to communicate with them, because it's like...
Yeah.
But yeah, so these weird, scribbly, indecipherable messages appear on the wall, except for this one, which might...
Say, please
help get. Nothing else.
Yeah. Is this, like, in stone?
Yeah, it's like, no, it's on wallpaper.
On wallpaper, okay.
Because that was the other thing that gets a little bit sketchy, I'll mention later on.
Yeah, because that's not that hard to fake.
No. So, messages started appearing on the wall. At this point, investigators were like, alright, let's just try communicating with the spirit. So they brought out the trusty old Ouija board. The Ouija board.
Ouija board.
No, the Ouija board.
Ouija board.
Shut up. They brought out the Ouija board.
Shut up.
They brought out the board, and they made contact with a spirit named Marie, and she told them that she was a nun who came from France to marry a man from the wealthy family who had owned the manor that had been on the property at the before the monastery, or not the monastery, before the church and rectory were built. And apparently her husband strangled her to death and buried her in the basement.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which, that connects back to people seeing a nun walking through the halls, right?
Yeah.
So, a little while after this, they got another message to the board, and the spirit, this was a different entity, not Marie, it was a different entity. And this entity told them that the rectory was going to burn down, and it was in the ashes that they would find proof of Marie's murder.
Okay.
A couple months after that, the rectory was burned down after the owner at the time knocked over an oil lamp.
Oh shit.
The whole place was destroyed, and so the investigators used that as an opportunity to excavate the basement, and they did find bones. They didn't, they were, obviously at this time they weren't able to, like, what year is this? 1938.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously they weren't able to do any, like, full-on DNA testing, so they weren't able to figure out exactly who these bones belonged to. But they gave the bones, like, a proper burial.
Yeah.
Like a Catholic burial, assuming that this was Marie.
Yeah. But did they, like, because I feel like, even in the 1930s, you could figure out generally, like,
yeah, what
stock and what kind of build the skeleton would have had. Did they, like, do any research to see, like, oh, this is, like, a 5'4" biologically female?
Yeah. So, after that, the whole place was burned down, or not burned down, it was torn down, but the property still remains today. However, there's more proof photo proof of this place being haunted. In 1944, a photographer for Life magazine took a photo of the rectory.
This will also be tweeted out?
Yep. So, do you see anything suspicious here, particularly in this area?
I see something kind of up there, but I don't know if that's just my eyes tricking me.
Alright, I'm going to show you the next photo. This photo is zoomed in of the doorway. This is apparently a levitating brick.
Oh, I thought that was just like a speck.
No, apparently it's a levitating brick, because as you can see, there's nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, there's no wall.
And how did the light hit that in such a way to make it?
Well, it's a doorway, right? So you have, like...
Oh, okay.
Right, you can see it there.
Yeah.
This has obviously been, like, brightened so you can see it better.
Yeah. But I feel like that's also, like, could be explained away fairly easily from a skeptic point of view.
Yeah. I don't know, they're kind of... That makes me think of, like, the Ghost Adventures documentary where the first piece of real poltergeist evidence was a brick being thrown. That's with ghosts and bricks.
I don't know.
This brick empty! Yeet!
That's gonna be, like, the big joke of this episode. It's already the big joke of this episode. It's the big joke of my fucking life.
Can we title this episode Polter-Yeet?
Of course we can.
Thank God. So that kind of sums things up. Here's a question. Would you have a Bellini with Esther Cox?
I would definitely, because, like, I feel like she's kind of been lost in this whole situation. Like, her perspective wasn't really shown through, like, this paranormal investigator. She was thrown up by her family. Like, this girl needs a fucking Bellini. She needs, like, a shoulder to cry on. Like, I would just be like, girl, what's going on? Like, you're haunted. Like, you know.
Either a ghost stabbed her or she stabbed herself, but either way, she needs a fucking drink.
Yeah, she does. Definitely. Specifically, this kind of wine that we have right here.
What is that?
It's Jacob's Creek Moscato Rosé 2017. It's very good.
It is good.
It's very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think moral of the story is take poltergeist hauntings with a grain of salt, because a lot of stuff gets dramatized, especially with retelling and time, and it just gets so over the top, and Victorian people loved over the top. Like, Bridget! Did you hear what I heard? You know? So
Yeah, plus, like, this account is written by this guy who is, like, talking about his own... He's trying to, like, bring himself up as this, like, paranormal investigator. Like, obviously he's gonna,
here's the other
be dramatic.
Here's what the other thing makes it kind of sketchy of him. Okay. Because I'm very sketchy about people who like these kinds of things. He also was a corporation lawyer, but he's also remembered as the founder and teacher of Hubble Bible class.
Go on.
But, I mean, just that alone.
Nothing against anyone who attends Hubble Bible class.
But, like...
Yeah, I don't necessarily... I mean, again, I would have to look more into this guy, but I don't know if he's necessarily completely unbiased. Well, obviously he's not unbiased, but I don't know if he's necessarily a reliable source in this aspect.
But I think what also makes him credible, though, is that he had 16 people sign.
Okay, yeah.
But... $10 went a long way back then.
Yeah. You could buy a fucking house, $10.
You couldn't. More like $100, but yeah. I wish I could buy a house for $100.
That'd be nice. Real estate in Vancouver, real talk, people. It's fucking bad.
It's so bad, I would move into a house with a poltergeist just so I could have a house.
Yeah, let's just move to Nova Scotia. Just fucking do it. It's beautiful there.
Oh, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
Alright, there you go. There you have it. The Great Amherst Mystery. If you ever find yourself in Nova Scotia, Canada there, bud, go check out Amherst there, bud. And then when you're done, go park the car in the garage there, bud, and go have yourself a nice beer there, bud.
Did you go there when you were in Nova Scotia?
No, I did not.
Aw.
I think it's more up north. Northern Nova Scotia is wild, apparently.
I think I have a great aunt. Or I'm related to someone who's from Northern Nova Scotia, so maybe that explains everything about me.
Alright, my drink's done.
Alrighty.
See ya!
And I'm drinking from the wine bottle, so, you know, we're having fun.
Bye!
Bye!
Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode. And for the record, the document I was referencing was What a Young Boy Ought to Know by Sylvanus Stahl. This episode features the voices of Molly Lorette and Ashley Smith. Our theme music was composed and produced by Larry Lorette. Our cover image was designed by Ashley Smith, and the sound editing was done by Larry Lorette. Have any comments, concerns, or cases you want us to cover? Email us at demonsandbellinis@gmail.com. You can also find us at Demons and Bellinis on Tumblr, Demons and Bellinis on Instagram, and at DBellinis on Twitter. That's capital D and capital B. Thanks again, and we hope that you keep your ears open.